Hey everybody, welcome to the Jim Master Show Live Entertainment Lifestyle Talk Show series. How's everybody doing today? Good to see your smiley faces. Welcome, welcome, welcome. We've got an amazing show in store for you on our Entertainment Lifestyle Variety Talk Show series. We're bringing back that lost art of conversation, guests coming in from all walks of life, celebrity friends, friends from the musical world, television, film, stage, comedy, sports, culinary arts, and so much more. We've got an amazing guest coming into us live from Nashville, Tennessee. Acclaimed record producer Sean Giovanni is here live. He has worked with some of the greats like John Legend and Juicy J and Big and Rich, Tim McGraw, as well as the Wallflowers, Meatloaf, and so many others. He is a sonic storyteller who's passionate about helping artists achieve their unique creative vision. He achieves this mission as a record producer, audio engineer, educator, and the owner of the Record Shop, which is a fantastic state-of-the-art recording studio and multimedia production company in Nashville, Tennessee. Sean enjoys working in a wide range of genres and has had the privilege to work again with so many extraordinary artists. He's also the co-founder of the Studio Musician Academy, which is an educational mentorship platform where top studio musicians break down the methodology behind their creative process in the studio. That, could you imagine hanging out on one of those sessions? You would learn an incredible amount. He loves what he does. He's been doing this for a long time. Again, he founded and created this extraordinary place where people come to record their music, and he helps sort of nurture them and take them along the way. As I mentioned, he's worked with some of the greats, Meatloaf and John Legend, and recorded with Tim McGraw and even the Wallflowers and so many more. Really, really cool to have him here on the show. And you're going to learn a lot about this kind of work too, what goes into it, and what the facility offers, which is incredibly spectacular to say the least. Let's welcome him live and direct. Join me. He's in his studio. He's in this cool chair with this cool red hat. You know, I love hats too, gang. And the studio is all lit up with these fantastic colors. I mean, it looks, it looks fantastic. He looks like the king of the castle in this shot. We just see it. Let's welcome Sean Giovanni live from Nashville and the Record Shop Studios in Nashville. Hey, Sean, welcome to the show, my friend. It's awesome to have you here.
Thanks for having me. Glad to be here. What's
Oh,
up, everybody?
it's a pleasure. Hey, I love this background that you've got. It really looks fantastic. All the different colors, the red hat. I mean, you are in the thick of your playground there, aren't you?
Yeah, man. Absolutely. I'm here in the main tracking room of Studio A at the Record Shop.
Tell us what goes on in that particular room that you're in right now, and we'll do a full screen so people can really get a good shot of.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, this is a pretty close-up shot of the room itself. It's a pretty large 20 by 30 room with 20-foot ceilings, and our A room is utilized for large format tracking sessions. So this is where we bring the full band in to track live on the floor together in more of a traditional way of record making. We do quite a bit of choir sessions, string sessions, brass sections, um, anything where you need a nice wide open space that has a good acoustic treatment to it, and to be able to fit everything in. And we also do a lot of video stuff like this, where we do live performance broadcasts, from the studio, and podcasts and live streams of all kinds of different presentations and events from within the studio in this room. And that's where some of the lighting things that we got set up today, and where I'm sitting is positioned in one of the ways that we do some of our music related podcast streams and that sort of thing.
Really, really cool. Looks fantastic, my friend. So, how did you start to get into the music industry as a whole for you, beginning, early as a kid? What was some of the inspiration for you that turned you into wanting to become, so proficient as such a lover and aficionado of music?
Well, I think it started with my father's fascination with music, and as a fan of a wide variety of genres, which I think was pretty unique. As I've talked to friends and colleagues that come up, they oftentimes come up in a family where the household only listens to country or only listens to rock and roll or R&B or gospel. And my dad is just such a tremendous fan of music and appreciates every genre that like imaginable. So whenever we'd be driving around, when I was a young kid, he'd taking me to to school or baseball practice or hockey practice, and we'd spend a lot of time in the car together. And he'd always have a different CD on, oftentimes of a different genre of music and in style. And many of them I didn't necessarily appreciate right away when I was younger. I wanted to listen to pop and hip hop and rock, and so some of it was a little obscure for me. But as I got a little bit older, I started to understand how different styles of music and music as a whole can become a soundtrack to different experiences in our lives. And I started to come to that realization probably around like my 13, 14 years old. And that got me into this idea of thinking about how could I have some involvement in music. So my first introduction to it, my dad got me a guitar and some guitar lessons. I really enjoyed that. I started to learn to play the instrument, but I didn't excel at it as quickly as a lot of my buddies and kids my age and other kids that went to the lessons music school that I went to, and I started to not get as excited about it all the time. And I saw this guy named DJ Scribble who was DJing on MTV Spring Break sometime around middle school age. And I thought, that is really cool. This dude's up there with this huge production on this big stage. He's spinning all these different songs, mixing them together, blending them in a cool way. And I got really intrigued by the art of turntablism, which is the traditional idea of taking different records and combining them together to create a new mix or a new sound. And that led me into exploring hip hop and the history of the foundation of hip hop and the culture surrounding it. And then I got a little bit more into the alternative side of punk and rock and that sort of thing. And those were my initial inspirations around it. And through all of that experience, what I started to find is that what I was really drawn to was the emotional reaction that I had in listening to different styles of music. And I started to think about the way that songs were arranged, both in the composition, but also in the instrumentation and the sound of them. So as I got into DJing, I spent a lot of time listening to all kinds of different music and really listening from a critical aspect of how can these different songs, kind of work together into an order that will keep people entertained. And I think subconsciously it started to get me really intrigued in the idea of production and how these sounds were created. So that led me through high school into I set up a little makeshift studio in my parents' basement with a 4-track cassette recorder, some cheap microphones, and anybody I could find that would come and write a song with me or that had their music that they just wanted to lay down a recording of. I started working on with some like rock bands, some singer-songwriters, some R&B and pop singers, some hip-hop artists, and was writing a lot of music myself. And so through high school, that was really my introduction to the idea of production. And then as I started to get towards graduating high school, I started to learn about the legends in the production world and realize that this actually can not just be a hobby, this can be your career. And that was when I presented this idea to my parents that, I'm not so sure about going to real school and getting a degree and spending a number of years taking a bunch of classes that aren't really related to what I want to do with my life. I think I'm going to venture into the music industry. And that was the inspiration and the beginning of that path, I guess.
So when you said you were going to do that, were they like, go ahead, you got our support, or were they hesitant saying, are you sure? Because it's a finicky, crazy, unpredictable business, as we all know, right?
Yeah, well, I think my parents, and now that I'm much further on in my career, and I've had the experience now to be able to work with the parents of young kids that are trying to make this decision and help guide them through it. There's a perception on the outside of the industry about this idea that like rock stars and pop stars and that sort of thing are just these magical people that just have this sort of dreamlike life, and they were just sort of born into these opportunities. And when you get into the industry, you learn that these careers and these jobs that they have earned for themselves have come through talent, obviously, but once the talent is there, through hard work and determination and persistence, just as you would if you wanted to start as an entry-level attorney and then become a partner and then own a firm, or become a doctor that then starts in the emergency room, works their way up to having their own private practice. Once you start to understand the industry a little bit more, you see that there's similarities in, in some ways. Obviously, entertainment industry is entirely different, but there's still jobs and there still is a career path. The career paths are wildly more diverse in the entertainment industry than they are in other industries, but it's not just this dreamlike thing that only magical people that just fall into this lucky situation have the opportunity to do. And so once I was able to show some examples of that, and I showed my parents that I had the determination that was not going to stop until I found a way to be able to find wherever my path led me within this industry, they were much more willing to support, and understand. But I never felt a 100% like area of discontentment for my parents at all. There were definitely hesitancy and, questioned it and wanted to make sure I was clear on what it was that I knew what I was getting into and going after. But I've always had their support, and fortunate in that.
That's fantastic. So, what was the first entree in when you said, "Okay, I'm going to dive in deep into the music business"? What was the first opportunity, or maybe one of those key things that came your way, or that you created that sort of opened the door and people started really recognizing Sean's commitment, Sean's talent, Sean's understanding and appreciation for the music business and how it all works? Well, and the appreciation of just music in general. What was some of those first door opening opportunities for you that set things in motion?
Well, the first thing that I remember that has to do with more starting to learn the business of creating art and then connecting that art with people that would be interested in it was actually in high school before, and it really wasn't anything that opened a door anywhere. It was more something that was a really great experience that I had that helped prepare me for what was to come in the next few years. But in that process, when I mentioned in middle of high school, I set up this studio in my parents' basement. I started writing a lot, recording myself and my friends. And one of my buddies that I played football with, his dad worked at a post-production house. And one of the guys there did audio mastering and they did CD duplication. So I took these cassette tapes over there of the songs that I had worked on, and I put together these like mixtapes or compilation CDs of my own music and other people's music. And I had my buddy's dad's coworker print up. I think the first one we did was like 50 CDs, and so they might have charged me, I don't know, like 50 cents a CD or something. And then that next week, I brought them to school and started selling them around the lunchroom and around the hallway, for $5 a piece, and sold out of them in the first day. I was like, this is great.
Wow.
All right, cool.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go back and get some more. And now I'm gonna talk to my friends that go to other schools in the area and see if they'd be open to bringing these CDs around and sharing them with their friends. So then we started this little like mini record label in Metro Detroit, and it was nothing significant. I mean, we sold a few thousand CDs, and probably each year as we were creating new music. But the experience that it gave was this idea about just going out and figuring out a way to get your music in front of people. Use the resources that you have around you. Ask for help. I knew my buddy's dad worked at this post-production place. I asked him, is there anybody there that could, burn a CD and duplicate CDs for us? That CD duplicator then, after he heard my horrible cassette tape recordings, said, hey, maybe I could help you up the quality of this a little bit so it sounds a little bit better on the CD if I could master this, this cassette for you. And so I learned about that process, and then I got into the idea of getting people around you excited about what you're doing, creating a purpose behind it, of being able to share the local music of our community and within our age group, where we were young enough that we couldn't necessarily go book a show at a bar and and all that. So we started creating our own outdoor shows. We worked with different various like high schools to allow us to put on performances, and I started hosting a battle of the bands at a few different schools in the area to be able to bring artists together and promote the music that we were creating also. And so it became a really good introduction, and it was just all for fun. I mean, I knew that I wanted to have a career in music, but I wasn't at that point thinking like I'm going to be a record label mogul. I just made some cool music with some cool people, and I wanted to get it out there. But all those experiences were really great in preparing me for when I ended up in Nashville.
Boy, I used to love those CD places where they would make the CDs from the cassettes, and I did that too. I would bring them over, and they would package them, and it would just be music that I had, or a lot of it was even my own voiceover narration reels, and commercial voiceovers, promo voiceover work for radio and television, and you'd have it all on cassettes. Some of the first voiceover reels were cassettes you would send out, and then when they had those CD creation shops, I remember them well. You'd send the cassettes to them or drop them off, and they would pound out all the CD versions of the cassettes, sort of remaster it, make it sound better, get rid of the hiss, which was really, really cool. Some of the viewers are saying your sound is a little low, I guess. Maybe they can pump up the volume on your end a little bit.
Yeah, we can do that. Absolutely.
Yeah, just a little bit low, I guess. Or maybe my mic is hotter. But
we'll bring it up over here.
Yeah, that's coming. It's coming up nicely. Really, really fantastic, trail of events there. And then when did it get to the point when you started really taking on some really high level names, people, who really have been doing their thing, and now they're coming to the record shop studios to do their work? When did that start really taking off for you, Sean? And congratulations on all the hard work. None of this comes easy. This has been like a lifelong dream since you were a kid, and now you have this fantastic facility that's acclaimed and well known and award winning and state of the art. None of it comes easy. Blood, sweat, and tears, a lot of hours, a lot of nails being hammered into the wood and everything. But how'd that all come about? The creation of the record shop studios themselves, and then people of note, people of every background wanting to come in to record and have everything taken care of there.
Well, it's definitely been a long ride. As I got out of high school, I had to figure out what the first move would be. And what I had read a lot about the people that I had looked up to in the industry that did what I wanted to do, being a record producer and audio engineer, they found an internship or an entry-level job at a studio. And so I started looking around the Detroit area where I grew up for the opportunity to get in. And what I found was that, it had started to become common really right like in my generation in the first few years around then. I graduated high school in 2004. And during that time, the apprenticeship model of getting into the recording industry had really gone away, and it had been replaced by a more traditional education model where now there were recording schools where they actually wanted you to have a degree, not like a university college degree, but a certificate degree or an associate's degree in learning the trade. And a lot of that happened with the shift of the recording industry economy right around the time that I was getting out of high school, where piracy had came in, Napster, the height of CD sales had peaked, and everything was kind of coming down. The nation's economy was starting to, struggle a little bit. So they were in a position where these studios had a good couple decades of really great revenue and an awesome business model, and then it dried up very quickly. So the idea of the apprenticeship where the studios have so much work that they would just love to have someone come in and help, now they're just trying to keep their doors open. And many of the studios, in order to keep their doors open, started to come up with this concept of teaching audio engineering and production as a degree program or as a certificate program. And that was the time that I was getting out of high school and trying to figure out how to take my first step.
Yeah.
So the options to me were find a recording school. And the school that I ended up going with was a trade school in Minneapolis, Minnesota. It was a good school that had a diverse range of studios and equipment that they had there. I spent a year and a half in Minneapolis going through that program, learned a lot, and then made the decision to come to Nashville. So when I got to Nashville, my next big sort of step had happened. I'd gone through this program. I had done all the things that that I thought I was supposed to do. Graduated at a high level in my class. I expedited the process of getting like all the technological certifications that I needed to get. I was kind of like, for the first time in my educational career, an honor roll student, because I really loved what I was learning. And I got out of that program and I started applying for internships. And they had told me, you get this degree, you do really well, you get a good resume, and then you just get an internship and you start working your way up. Well, I interviewed at every single commercial studio in Nashville, and I could not land an internship. Some folks thought that I was maybe like overqualified, and I realize now that I might have just been a little bit overzealous with my excitement about what I wanted to accomplish in my career in some of those conversations. But it was also just still wasn't that far away. It was only like a year and a half later, and we were getting closer to a pretty big recession. So the music industry wasn't any better. I was just kind of told when I was in music school that if I got this degree, if I went through this program, got all these extra certifications, that there would be an opportunity out there. And I found out very quickly that those opportunities were not as abundant as they were made to seem. But I finally found someone that was going to give me a job at a major label's recording studio. So I moved to Nashville for that job. And when I got here, I found out that through some details with how internships are run in Tennessee, that opportunity had fallen through. So I was here. I had a lease on a place, the one place out of the dozens that I had interviewed with and talked with that I thought that I could that led me to to move here. That opportunity had fallen through, and I was just like, man, this is crazy. I feel like I am so meant to follow this path, and like this career is what I'm so certain is what I'm supposed to do, but I cannot figure out how to get the first step in the door. And I was fortunate as a young kid to have parents that pushed me to be a go-getter and an entrepreneur in some ways, or have the entrepreneurship attributes of, you want to make some extra money in the summer, cut some grass. But
Right.
instead of just cutting your neighbor's lawn, my mom helped me print out a whole bucket of flyers, drove me around the neighborhood and around the town to distribute them everywhere. And that led to, instead of just being a kid that makes a couple extra bucks cutting some lawns, by the time I got out of high school, I had a pretty successful landscaping company.
I'm
And my
laughing
buddies were
because
working with me.
my mother did the same thing, but it was delivering the penny saver circular on
Oh, I did that
Saturdays.
too.
And we would take them and stuff them in the plastic and then drop them off the house. And you couldn't fling them on the lawn. You couldn't fling them at the end of the driveway back then. You had to actually go up, get out of the car, and put them on sort of like the railing. You couldn't put it on the mailbox because that was government property. There was just this whole thing. And that was like one of the first jobs to make some money and on the side, and collecting newspapers and saving them and bundling them up and bringing them to the recycle plant for 10 cents a pound. I thought I was rich. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
The things you do growing up, which is kind of cool, right? Just to bring in a few dollars as a kid.
Yeah, absolutely.
Teaches you
Yeah,
good skills.
I had the paper route too, and that was in middle school, and that was absolutely I hated that.
Yeah, that's
It was
especially when
miserable. And then
when they
going
would
around
let
and
the
trying to
dogs
collect the
out.
money from everybody.
You
I
had to
need
collect the money.
$3 for your subscription.
Come back next week,
but
right?
all of that was so great because my parents pushed me to or gave me the guidance, to do those things, and
Right.
and really taught me about, if
Good
you
foundation.
desire something, you can find a path for it if you
Right.
think creatively and you're
Right.
willing to put in the work and
Right.
the hard work to do it. So that became my path when I moved to Nashville. I couldn't get an internship, I couldn't get a job, but that didn't mean that there wasn't opportunity. It just meant that I had to follow a different path than the one that I thought that I was going to, when I moved here. So my starting place was, I had a little apartment that was above some offices on Nashville's Music Row, which is where a lot of the commercial studios are, the record labels are, publishing companies. So it was cool that I was able to find an affordable little one-bedroom apartment right on this street, because it gave me a little like legitimacy to be like, yeah, I got a studio on Music Row. But little did they know it was a one-bedroom apartment that I had converted into a studio and just slept on the couch. And that worked. That was my starting point. I went out every night to songwriter rounds, to different events where artists would be, where people were new to town would be hanging out, and I just tried to meet as many people as I could. while simultaneously just kind of figuring out how the town worked. And I was fortunate to find a few people that would let me shadow them in their own studios where I could come and sit in on a session. I learned a lot from those experiences, and slowly but surely, I started to build a small client base of some up and coming songwriters, artists that were new to town like myself, but were going down the artist's career path, and we were able to kind of come up and grow together. So eventually, people started. One guy got a publishing deal, somebody got a management deal. I had a buddy that was running a hot dog stand across the street from Warner Brothers, and one day this producer came out and asked him if he knew somebody that could DJ. And then that guy knocked on my door, a few blocks down the street.
Yeah.
So you start making those little connections and just being around and showing up, which is just a big part of
guy
it, being here. And but there had to be some intention. So
there had to be some intention. I was going to say the guy with the hot dog stand across from Warner Brothers. We remember one in New York off the Long Island Expressway. These friends who had a hot dog stand off the expressway, they put 6 kids through college just from that one hot dog stand. I mean, location,
wow.
location.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
And he's across from Warner Brothers, your friend, not too shabby.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it was. I think it was probably more beneficial for the relationships connections than it was for the revenue, that it was bringing in. But that those types of things, just being around and making friends, and the idea of building strong relationships with people where you can start to build that word of mouth momentum. That starts to happen where you're on people's mind because you were just hanging with them or you just saw them and had a good conversation the other day, and then they meet someone that needs something that they know that you can do. And I found that a lot of great opportunities just kind of started to stem from that. So I spent a few years just kind of going through that process of being a freelance producer engineer that was working mainly with just up and coming, kind of brand new artists, and was fortunate to have a few of them find some good success, which at each step in that path has the potential to kind of open up another door or begin a new relationship. And was fortunate for those things to just kind of continue to build upon each other. And that path, I would say that stage lasted for about 5 years. And about 4 to 5 years in was where there was the first what I would consider to be like a break or sort of like milestone step that happened. One of my buddies, his name's Peter Keys. He's an incredible keyboard player. He's plays with Leonard Skinner now. Is also an incredible solo artist and producer, musician, and a really great friend. We've known each other for years now, but we had actually just first met back then when I was about 4 years into town. One of my buddies named Benji Harris, who's a really great songwriter here in town and a collaborator that I work with a lot. He brought in a demo session into my studio, and he had hired Peter to play keys on that session. So Peter and I hit it off. He had actually just moved here from Detroit. He's originally from California, but he had just spent some time in Detroit, so we had that sort of like common thread going, and he's got a great vibe and energy. So we just hit it off, creatively, and that led to just us hanging and working on some more stuff together. And probably a couple months after that, he came to me and said, "Hey, I got this dude that I'm doing some writing with. He was into heavy metal back in the day, and was really successful with that. But now he's doing some more like pop-driven sort of stuff that's real cool and edgy. I'm doing some writing with him, and I was wondering if you might want to collaborate with us on it." And this was a very important decision in my career because I was at a point where I was making a living, which was kind of the first goal. Figure out a way to make a living and support yourself solely from music. And so I was at that point, feeling pretty good about it. And I didn't necessarily need to take on projects in order to like for free and on spec in order to attract people to where I had enough work that I was working. But I was definitely not at the level that I wanted to be working at and with the level of people. So this was a really important moment because I had to make a decision over the value that I put on the relationship and the potential future opportunity or future revenue or business opportunity that could, or career opportunity that could come from something versus what I could make right now in the moment. So I had to sacrifice some time that I could be getting paid for to take on this project and do it on spec, to work on it together as a complete collaboration instead of being hired as a service provider. And it was a very good decision that ended up leading me down a whole nother path that kept that individual involved, but also opened me up into this other situation. So that artist that Peter had brought in was signed with to a publishing deal with a country artist and songwriter named John Rich, who's one half of Big and Rich.
That's right.
And at that time, John was leasing out a private studio facility in Nashville's Music Row because he was producing a lot of projects. He was working on his own music and then doing a lot of production. And he had a partner named Charlie Panaccio, who was also a really great producer. And he was, they were both interested in having a facility where they could have their own place instead of having to book out different rooms for everything they needed to do. They just have somewhere that they could go to make it happen. But fortunately for me, they did not have an engineer that was probably available for the amount of time that they would want someone to just be there to kind of run things. And it was just good timing. They really enjoyed the demos that I was doing with Peter and their artist Sinister, and that led to me being the chief engineer of this private studio, which word started getting out about this cool room and this new situation that it had. It was a legendary studio that was built originally by Porter Wagner. Dolly Parton had recorded there, Porter, Taylor Swift, all kinds of, legendary records had been done there. And we had it as a private rental. So because of John's connections and status and his incredible talent, there were a lot of projects that started to be attracted towards coming through that studio. And I finally had my opportunity to be able to be put in front of the level of people that I had been striving for, to be able to prove that I could support them in a strong way. And that was really the first, big step, was saying, you know what, screw what I can make today. I'm going to invest in someone that I believe in,
Right.
And that I enjoy working with. And it led to my first kind of next step, sort of break. So the following years after that, that sort of continued to excel, and Big and Rich reunited and had 3 back-to-back top 10 singles over the next couple years that I was fortunate enough to be able to work on. I started getting some cuts as a songwriter with other artists, and then I was developing some other independent acts and getting called into all sorts of cool projects and starting to get into TV stuff, and all of this sort of happened for me. Being able to be put into that environment, and then also to have that environment, because now instead of having the little apartment on Music Row that was basically the fake studio that was just an apartment, now I could take someone to a legit room that had a legendary background behind it, and it really excelled the projects that I was doing just as a producer as well. So it was a really strong turning point decision, I guess.
So, yeah, absolutely, I would say so, and led to so many other things. So after that happened, we had that connection with John Rich and Big and Rich. What happened from there? Did that open the door now for other larger names and acts to say, hey, I think we're going to check this place out. We're going to work with Sean and the team there at the Record Shop Studios?
Yeah, I will say that it did in some ways. But one of the things that I've learned about entertainment industry is that when we first get into it, we think like we want to work with, so-and-so marquee names that already exist. And what I've learned is that for the most part, those artists already have their team, their comrades that they've come up with, and grown with.
Right.
And so if I get a call for something like that, I'm grateful. And I really enjoy it, and just to be able to be in the room with some of the people that I've been able to be in a room with, I mean, it's just, dreams come true. But I recognize that I'm not going to, more than likely, regardless of how good of a job I do, not going to become their go-to person for the rest of their career. That was just a great opportunity that happened because I put myself in a circle that opens yourself up to those things when they come up. But the people that are going to start to come to me because of that sort of situation are the people that are the next John Rich, the next John Legend, the next Meatloaf, Bret Michaels, those are the artists that I can now work with and grow with and be their guy. All these other things are great when they happen. We get the random call and get to hook up with a new artist, and it's great. But I used to get bummed out because that relationship I thought like, oh great, now I know this person, and now next time they're in town they'll call again, or next time, and sometimes that happens where you do a few things in that way. But a good amount of time it's that you had this really great opportunity with them. You're able to have that experience, you learn a lot from it. And then I started to recognize, okay, with this experience and knowledge that I've pulled out of these other individual situations, I can go and work with this person who's just a couple steps, below being able to be brought up to that level, and hopefully be able to help them, get there with these new doors that have been opened in the process.
Exactly.
So I would say that that's what happens more often than the outside of the industry idea that you get your big break and then all of a sudden the phone doesn't stop ringing, because there's plenty of great options. We're if we put ourselves in those situations, we get more of those breaks more often if we do a good job,
right,
and establish a good reputation. But there's never a point of, okay, you've made it. And that was something that it took me about a decade to figure out.
Mm-hmm.
But after being around enough people that I believed had made it, and then being fortunate enough to be able to have intimate enough conversations with them to understand that even at that level, people still struggle with the feeling of whether they've made it or whether their art is legitimate, or whether it's the best art that they can create. It's this constant internal battle that we have as artists. So what I started to focus on less is like, is there a level that you can make it, and just what can I learn today from this experience, and how will help me lead me to the next experience? Trying to be very involved in the moment. It's helped me artistically and creatively, and it's also helped me a ton psychologically, because you can start to go a little crazy when you focus too much on that idea of the the awards and the tangible accolades, as opposed to just the fulfillment that we get through being able to do what we love every day.
So then having the opportunity, like you said, to work with the John Legends and the Tim McGraws and the Wallflowers and Meatloaf and many other greats, that gave you some understanding and additional appreciation for the industry, the business, the artistry, the connections, just the whole thing, the ins and outs of it all, that enhanced your ability to then help and mentor those who are up and coming, right? Having the opportunity to work. What was it like, even if brief, working with some of those fantastic names, even though, whether it's something that was fleeting or it was a big project or what have you, probably was cool having an opportunity, and is cool when those opportunities do come to work with some of those terrific names, huh?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's incredible, in the moment, and I try to stay in that moment and observe as much as I can. Just listen. I was recently interviewing a really great session player in town, Jerry McPherson, and he said the idea of just have big ears everywhere you go. Big ears for sound, but most importantly, big ears for what you can learn in the environment and the people that you're around. And so that's what I try to focus on in those environments. I think one of the most memorable sessions in that capacity was with John Legend, where it was very, like, the first session that we did was very last minute. I still wasn't working full time at my career. I had just started overseeing that private studio, and I was still DJing at a nightclub downtown. It was like 12:30 in the morning, I guess. I got a call, said, John Legend's at the studio. We just finished writing a song. Can you come and record it? And I said, yeah, no problem. I'll be there in 5 minutes. I literally turned around and walked out the front door. And I saw the manager on the way out. I was like, bro, I'm sorry. I got to go. And they knew very well that I didn't move here to be a DJ on Broadway. I moved here to work on records, so they didn't even like question it. And the next day I showed back up for work, and fortunately still had my job. But I didn't care. They could have fired me. I was going to that session. I just turned around and without even like thinking or questioning it, I walked out the door. And as I walked out, I told the bartender, "Yeah, you guys got to find somebody to keep playing the music because I gotta go."
Because I have an important
And so I showed up to the studio, and it was really a wonderful creative lesson for me. I was able to see someone who's clearly a legend, no pun intended,
Yeah.
as a vocalist and a performer and an incredible human being, but his authenticity and pureness to his artistry, that I was really one of the first times that I'd experienced that level of pure art and artist at that caliber, that there was no question that he had that intangible thing that makes someone a superstar. And you could just tell it from his comfort around the instrument, and how the demeanor changed from when I came in to start setting up equipment to when he stood in front of the microphone. So a really interesting thing, if you can kind of picture me walking in to the door of the studio, I hear them playing the piano in the tracking room. The tracking room's like the big room like I'm sitting in now with all the instruments, and the control room has the console and the equipment in it. So I walk in and I grab some mics, and they're still finishing writing the song. I start miking up the piano, and I'm listening to what they're doing, kind of getting a vibe for how we're gonna record it, and go into the control room to plug some things in. Now during that process, they finished writing the song, and John comes out of the tracking room. He's in the control room, and the Lakers, I think, were in the playoffs, or there was just a Lakers game on. So he's sitting down and like there was like a computer, a TV screen in the control room, and he's just sitting there watching the Lakers game, just chatting with the other folks in there. I'm getting everything set up, and I'm done. And I came over to him and said, "Hey man, I got the mic set up. It's ready to go. Would you mind going out there and we'll do a test run on it?" He's like, "Yeah, absolutely." Went out, and when he stepped in front of the microphone, his complete demeanor changed. His posture changed. His face got more solemn. He took a moment to like take a deep breath, close his eyes, recenter, and keep in mind, we're just recording a demo for a song that they had just written. This is just to lay it down so the artist can remember it. This is not going to be heard by anyone except for us and them and the publisher, more than likely. And at least that was the idea at the moment. It ended up becoming something more, which is great. But in the moment, it's just that, but it didn't matter because he wrote this song and he needed to perform this song. And if he was going to sing on a microphone, he was going to do it like there was 30,000 people in the audience. And that was exactly what happened. It was just sort of this like goosebump thing where it just totally, like, he's just someone that can just turn it on. And that just, that comes from that authentic connection to the music, but also a very clear intentionality about what you're doing there. You're creating art, you're delivering that art. And in order for you to know whether this song is going to be viable for him to cut or for another artist to cut, we're going to lay it down with the intention of what it was written around. It was a deep, piano ballad love song, and he sang it with every ounce of emotion that I feel like he would, whether we were demoing it or cutting it on a record. That was a really great moment of understanding that, and then his ability to be able to be done with that and move away from it, and then really sort of switch gears again to just be hanging out and watch the end of the basketball game,
which is incredible,
and just chilling and talking again.
Yeah.
But being able to really separate that sort of thing.
That's
and
really cool.
So that became something that I became really aware of when especially young artists are in the studio or in the creative process for the first time. Do they really feel like they're meant to do this? Are they connected with this art at a level that shows that they're going to be able to stand out amongst the masses of other people who just say, I like to sing, maybe I'll record something and see what happens. And so that was a really good lesson for me to be able to understand the difference, but also for me to be able to share with young artists that I meet that have that level of talent, but are trying to find their connection with the music.
I've had a number of people.
Figuring out where that authentic connection is.
I've had a number of
because it's something
people.
that we have maybe innately, but it's also something that we learn to harness in the
Right.
moment. Over time and over understanding of self-reflection and our connection with the art that we're creating, and our understanding of the importance of that connection.
I've had a number of people that have passed through here, whether they're, musicians, singers, songwriters, actors, actresses, television stars, what have you. When they get asked the question, sometimes even by our viewers, and viewers are all welcoming you, and they said hello, and we'll show some of their comments too. They'll say things like, well, okay, one of the main things I tell others who are looking to come into these industries, television, radio, entertainment, theater, music, performance, whatever it may be, you can't be half in. It can't be 50% in. You literally, because of the demands of the industry, the craziness, the blood, sweat, and tears, the hours, the unpredictability, the tenacity and resilience to have, you got to be 100% in. So if you're thinking about going in, but the other part of you wants to be an accountant, be the accountant.
Yep.
That's what most of them say, because you got to be ready to give 110% and be all in. And that's so true, isn't it?
Absolutely. Yeah, I couldn't agree with that more. You said it all. There can't be a backup plan. I love the story of Hernan Cortez and burning the ships. That's the great analogy that I look at because it's so extreme. Are you familiar with that story?
Absolutely, yeah.
So important. But for if someone isn't, it's the Spanish general that's coming to take over this land, and he gets all his army off of the ships and has them burnt down to the ground behind them, so there's no way they can retreat. There's no turning back. I tell artists you can't have a backup plan. It's a very extreme point of view, and especially when I'm working with younger artists, some parents look at me a little cross-eyed. I'm sure my parents would have looked at whoever my mentor could have been that would have said that, in a weird way. But I don't know another way around it. If there was a backup plan for me, I would have taken it at some point.
Yeah.
All the times that I was told no, and this isn't going to happen, I was 6 months into being in Nashville and finally starting to kind of get some headway. My apartment got cleaned out, got broken into and emptied. The only thing that was left was my bed and my dishes. It was one thing after another of things, falling through, and seeing people get those opportunities that you would work so hard to try to, go after. You can only take so much of that before you just revert back to something that's more comfortable.
Right.
But if you really want this path, and if you first of all have to know that you do, and then you have to have a reason that's bigger than yourself to go after it. And if you've determined those things, and then you can wholeheartedly say, this is the only option for me, then I think you got a shot. But you still have to be okay with sacrificing all of that and committing at that level, knowing that there's still only a possibility that you're going to have the level of success that you want. It has to be that fulfilling that you're okay with accepting that maybe all of those dreams aren't going to come true, but at least pursuing it is going to be fulfilling enough to say there's no other option for me.
Exactly. Right. Exactly. And that's cool. I mean, that's part of what you also do is mentoring others. Along the way, some of the other folks we mentioned, we recently lost Meatloaf, of course. What was it like working with him?
I mean, his personality is amazing. He's so emotional.
Yeah.
And in a kind of a similar way to John's connection, John Legend's like connection to his performances, but Meatloaf definitely in like just a different, kind of thing. I don't want to say deeper necessarily, but just in a different type of depth, to it. Definitely a very emotionally driven individual.
Yeah.
And just really cool personality and, and fun hang. I didn't have any negative, to like pressure driven situations or whatever where anything
Yeah.
super like, negative or struggling came up at all. It's basically
Right.
just a fun time.
That
But you definitely tell that level of emotion that.
is really a very heart on his sleeve type thing. Exactly. Tim McGraw, another great one that you've worked with. Tell us about that.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I've worked on a handful of things with him, and um, he's very kind and really feels like, everyone is just really just a normal person, but he really feels just like a down home, like just hanging out, with your buddy and laying down some music. I wouldn't say that we're buddies. I've worked with him a handful of times as an engineer, but he's been a pleasure to work with, and really, really great vocalist. Has a great natural tone
Yeah.
on the mic, and is a great guy.
Mm, that's fantastic. Even the Wallflowers too. I mean, the variety of acts that have come through, the variety of music and textures and genres is incredible. I like working with the Wallflowers.
Yeah, so that's a good example or a good observation is the diversity of the artists that I've worked with, and I really enjoy that. Again, if we go back to my dad's introduction to music for me was just so diverse. Even my mom took me to a Metallica concert when I was a kid, so it was just like across the board had this introduction to all these different styles of music. And when I started getting into production, I also started to find that I really enjoyed working on different sides of the production. And what that meant is that as opposed to just working in the studio, I started getting really interested in live recording, where we could go out. I go out to a festival or concert, capture a concert performance, and how that's different from the studio setting of capturing things. And then I also got really intrigued by the visual aspect of that. So we could create performance videos in unique locations that would have a different, perspective, or I could help set up the plan for a music video. And that's where the record shop started to become more of a multimedia production company instead of just a recording studio. And so the Wallflowers are a good example of a group that I had the opportunity to work with because of that diversification of things. There was a festival that a local radio station called Lightning 100 started putting on probably about 10, 12 years ago here in town called Live on the Green. It's a free show that they do by the courthouse in downtown Nashville. And they bring out some incredible artists, both local artists and like national headline artists to perform. And we pitched them the idea of capturing these shows to archive the performances, so we could archive a performance of 1 to 2 songs from each artist that came on the show. And the Wallflowers were one of the bands that played, and that was my first opportunity of working with them, was handling a live multi-track recording of their performance at Live on the Green.
That's really, really cool. Fantastic. What I really think is really awesome about all this too, in addition to having the opportunity to be a full service facility, like you say, a multimedia facility, you're also the co-founder of the Studio Musician Academy, this educational mentorship platform where top studio musicians actually come in to break down the methodology behind their creative process in the studio. Like I said, when I was introing the show, I said to be there and witness to some of these incredible studio musicians who play all kinds of music and backing tracks and film scores, commercial music, orchestras, bands, whatever it is, to actually have the opportunity to be amongst them and hear them break things down from their various perspectives and be witness to that is invaluable and incredible. And that's one of the things that you sort of co-founded, is this opportunity there for people to get this rare exposure that they might not normally get elsewhere and otherwise, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it's been so much fun creating it, because now I get to like sit and ask the players all the questions that I wish I had time to ask them when we're recording. So there's, we work in a focused environment in the studio, and a lot of the players that I have that are part of this program are players that I've had on many records that I've worked on. We're going through the process. So I'm making decisions as a producer or an engineer. I'm not explaining all of my decisions to them. They're making decisions as an expert at their instrument. They're not necessarily explaining all their decisions to me. We're just deciding whether we like what we're hearing, in the moment. So now I get to go back and think like, in that moment where we're looking for this type of like snare sound, for example, I see you go over there and grab this, and this, and then do that. But what are you actually thinking about? And same with the guitar player. When I say I want something to sound this way, and then you have 15 guitars to choose from, and you grab that one and you put it through that pedal, what's the reason behind that? So it's intriguing for me, just in general, because it's really fascinating to think about the methodology behind how artists that have a proven track record of making hit records, the sound of hit records, think about their process, their creative process, of doing it. I am definitely not new to the technical process of making it happen, but being able to get inside each of their like individual heads and what are they going through? What are they thinking about? I think even just doing it has started to give me some thoughts on becoming a stronger collaborator and better producer with session players. But my motivation for putting this together has a lot to do with the challenges that I had early in my career. I moved to Nashville, could not get an internship, could not get a job, and I could not find a mentor to guide me through what I wanted to accomplish. Every month, I get dozens of emails from musicians that are in the same boat that I was in when I moved to Nashville. Mm-hmm. They moved here because they're following their dream. They want to have the opportunity to play on records, to tour with artists, to be able to have an impact with the instrument that they love playing, but they're not exactly sure where to start. And it gets even more challenging because there's so many different paths. So each individual musician may have a different path that's going to make more sense to them based on their style of playing, based on their experience, their proficiency, and then the instrument that they're playing. So with all of those variables and with no real educational tract outside of learning how to technically play your instrument at a collegiate level, there's no career class, legitimate career degree for what do you do when you're this type of player in this town, in this situation, and you're trying to find a way to build a career. There's plenty of that in what I do for a living. There's all kinds of platforms that will educate producers and engineers on the creative process and, and the business process and all of that. But what I found is that session players and musicians that are looking to have that type of career, they really don't have the same type of resources. And so I wanted to set out to create that. I wanted to give aspiring session players and current session players that are looking to expand their career the same type of resources that I wish that I had when I was starting my career as a producer. And I believe that we are well on our way to helping people do that. So we're doing that starting with a podcast, the Studio Musician Academy podcast, which I host. And a goal of that podcast is for me to bring in a wide variety of different instrumentalists that have extensive experience and at the highest level of playing in the studio and on stage with the biggest artists in the world, and learn about their career path and their mindset behind playing. So we focus a lot on where they got their start, where the path kind of led to, but also looking back on it and trying to break down what were the things that specifically led to those successful moments, and how could those methodologies be applied to the next generation that wants to be able to find that. And then I really love going into detail about just the psychology of what goes on in a musician's head when they're presented a song and they're trying their best to figure out a way to be able to turn that song into a really special piece of art.
It's really incredible. We have a video actually here, which is a tour of your studio that you do. It's about 2.5 minutes. It's very cool. And we wanted to share it with the audience so they can get a real good grasp and feel for what the studio looks like, but also some of the cool things that you're doing. So we're going to take a look at that now, gang. And then we'll be back with our very special guest, Sean Giovanni, live from Nashville in just a second. Here is that cool video. Take a look.
Welcome to the Record Shop Recording Studio in Nashville, Tennessee. Your songs are our passion. I founded the Record Shop with the purpose of developing a unique creative space that would allow artists to create timeless recordings. We've been blessed with the opportunity to work on so many amazing projects, giving us the ability to help artists create a piece of art that will outlast themselves. Our focus is to support artists in achieving their own unique artistic vision. We accomplish this through a production process that is centered and focused on pre-production, taking the time to get it right, and a balanced artist-producer collaboration. If you're looking for someone that is dedicated and wants to take that journey with you, I would love to hear from you. Here at the Record Shop, we believe that every project needs to tell its own unique story. So we've stacked our spacious control room with all the essential tools that you need to create your masterpiece. Our complete gear list can be found at therecordshopnashville.com. This is the Record Shop Tracking Room in Studio A. This massive space is 1,000 square feet and features 25-foot ceilings. This is an ideal space for full band tracking and massive drum sounds. The space also offers 3 isolation booths for separation. Inside this room, you'll find our beautiful Baldwin baby grand piano, a Hammond organ, studio drum set, and a diverse collection of both vintage and modern guitars, basses, and amps. An incredible selection of instruments that can help you make a better record. Our impressive mic collection features all the timeless classics as well as some modern revisions. If you're looking for the perfect place to shoot live performance videos, social media content, or interviews, the Record Shop can be a great option. With large space like this, you can fit in your whole crew, your whole band, and have plenty of space left. This is the Record Shop's Studio B. It's a fantastic option for producers, engineers, songwriters, and artists that are looking for an affordable space for vocal recording, mixing, and overdubs. The studio features a Pro Tools HD rig that is also compatible with Logic. We have a great selection of analog outboard gear and access to the Record Shop's complete mic collection. The studio is connected to 2 ISO booths for overdubs, and you can also request access to the Studio A tracking room for piano overdubs and video shoots. If you're looking for someone that is dedicated and wants to take that journey with you, I would love to hear from you.
Very cool, my friend. Very cool.
Thank
When
you.
you do that, how does it make you feel? I mean, it's like being a kid in a candy store. You created one of the greatest toy rooms any kid could have ever wanted or dreamed of who loves music. And like I said, it didn't come easy. There's a lot of investment, blood, sweat, and tears. And it's such a state-of-the-art facility. It's extraordinary. When you see that, I mean, knowing it's all come to fruition, how does that make you feel?
It feels incredible, and I make a point every morning when I walk in the studio to be grateful for the opportunity to be able to follow this path down the way that has led me to be able to have this great facility and this great opportunity to work with incredible artists every day and fulfill my passion on a daily basis. I think it's really important as someone's dreams start to come true, and those opportunities come to life, that we don't forget about how blessed we are to be able to have the opportunity to make them happen. So I'm definitely to keep my head on level ground and stay focused. I'm giving thanks for this often.
What do you see as the future of the facility? What do technology changes with the wind. There's all these new gadgets and apps and new ways of doing things and digital media. And you guys, I'm sure, are always staying ahead of the curve on all of that. But also, I'm sure there's analog capabilities. Vinyl is coming back. I still have all my vinyl. I have my Onkyo turntable. I got my double cassette deck, my KLH speaker. I still have all that stuff. Not getting rid of it. The Onkyo receiver puts out great sound, fills the house. But there, I mean, the digital world, the analog world sort of meeting, merging together. You must have a lot of forward thought as far as keeping abreast of the latest technology, but also other things you see for the future of the studio, huh?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm always on the hunt for a new idea, new way that we can serve artists. My focus is really just on how we can solve the problems that come up along the way for the people that we want to work with. Most recently, one of those answers has been getting into live streaming, which is why we have some of the equipment that we're using today to do this interview. We started offering live stream performance broadcasts for artists that weren't able to tour for the past couple of years. And that initially was just a way to be able to help our artists stay connected with their fans. What we found that expanded into was the opportunity to work with corporate organizations that host large virtual events, for churches that are doing virtual broadcasts, for companies that are doing virtual Q&A sessions, or exclusive events for a certain number of their clients, that sort of thing. It's opened up this technology, the idea of live streaming and the accessibility of all of the different platforms. Like the one that we're using today to connect with is an incredible one that has this built-in functionality that can turn really anywhere into a broadcast, studio. But we wanted to be able to have a level of equipment that would allow us to do that at a high level. So we have multiple cameras, some pretty extensive lighting, a broadcast switching board, and then some different conversion hardware boxes that allow us to be able to stream out to different formats and different platforms, that sort of thing. So that has been a ton of fun. I would say that the future for me that I'm really intrigued by is the idea of Dolby, Atmos, and immersive audio. Mm-hmm. And I'm really intrigued by the idea of how eventually Dolby and immersive audio could be done in a live stream setting, because I think that could be a really interesting, sort of thing. So the Dolby mixing in Dolby Atmos is something that we're experimenting or thinking about adding into our main control room, and I've been asking them about the idea about functionality of turning that into a way that you could do a live stream broadcast that you'd be able to experience in the same sort of immersive setting, which I think could be really intriguing. So I'd say that's probably the technology that's the most exciting to me. But in all honesty, I just want to figure out ways to be able to keep making great recs with great artists that I'm passionate about. That's what I love doing. But I think it's important, and that I saw when I first moved to town, technology had drastically changed when my generation came in. Analog was, just going out. There was new software. I had an advantage in certain scenarios over people that had been doing this job for a long time because I was faster than them at software that was new, because I didn't know anything else. I learned on this, this one thing. So I'm keenly aware of that, and I'm always trying to make sure that I don't get a step behind, that sort of thing. But also understanding that we can learn every day, and I want to surround myself with people that are me 16 years ago, that are the ones that are coming to town, that are eager for opportunity, and my door is always open for people that are motivated, dedicated, have no backup plan, and want to put in the work, to learn. I want to get them in the environments where they can, to be able to help them grow. But I found that through doing that, in a little bit of a selfish way, I get to learn a ton from them as well. So it's a lot of fun. I'm never going to retire, and I just want to keep being able to make records every day.
50 years from now, I will have you back on. Well, we'll have you back on well before that, but you'll be still in that chair, loving every second of it.
Yep, absolutely.
The people who do come through who aren't necessarily of the celebrity ilk, are they all different age groups, backgrounds? Tell us about like typical clients or people that come through who want to learn, who want to, use the facility to grow.
Yeah, we've had all kinds of really interesting projects come through the studio. The ones that I personally work on for the most part are, established artists or the up and coming talent that I'm working on developing. But the door's open for creative projects. We book the studio as it's a facility for me to be able to do my private work as a producer and engineer, but it's also a commercial studio that's available to be booked by anyone who wants to come in and experience it. So it's a pretty wide range of things. I do really enjoy when we're able to work on projects with people that have always had the dream of having a recording, whether it be their own songs or cover songs, but just really want to experience what it's like to go through the process. Those are one of the most fulfilling types of sessions that I get to see outside of the ones that are my main focus of established artists that I really enjoy the most, because I'm really a person that just lives life around experiences. I want to have really interesting, intriguing, memorable experiences in my life as a whole, and so having this job allows me to do that. But when I can give other people those really unique experiences that they've dreamed of for years, it's incredibly fulfilling. We've worked with a couple organizations that provide, I guess what would be best described as like a Make-A-Wish experience for senior citizens. And I've done a couple projects like that with artists with folks that were artists maybe when they were younger. They were always passionate about music. They were maybe a background singer at some point, but never really got to be like the solo person. They went on, they lived their life, they had their career, they're nearing, the end of their life, and they're given this experience to be able to come in and create music and do that thing that they had always wanted to do. Those are heart-wrenching moments and really get stuck in your mind of, man, there's so many ways to be able to make a true impact with this passion that I've had and skill that I've built that are outside of just the, marquee thing, the award, the recognition, the radio, hearing the song on the radio, that there's those projects that, most people will never hear, but for that person in that moment, that was the biggest thing that they wanted to do in life. And those things are really a lot of fun.
Absolutely. Beautifully said. And they're doing it all for the right reasons too. For you personally, just for Sean, are you, maybe it's a tough question to even answer because there's benefits of each. Are you a analog guy or a digital guy in your heart? Like what for just personally, just for you, what speaks to your heart first?
That's an interesting question. I am very equally both. And I think that has a bit to do with my generation, because my first experience was totally analog. It was a cassette recorder where I had to plug everything in. I never read the manual of that thing, but by turning enough buttons, I figured out how to get sound to go from one place to the other place. And I love that. Then I went to college, or the trade school that I went to, and I got introduced to recording on a computer. And there was all of this additional capability that was so incredible. And it seemed like the opportunities were endless, which I found was awesome and inspiring in some ways, but also started to maybe like shift or limit my creativity in some ways because there's so many options. You can literally do anything. Whereas when I was in my parents' basement with this little cassette recorder, I had to think really hard to figure out how to create a sound that was in my head with these 4 tracks and these couple inputs and not a lot of equipment. So I like limiting my options, and I like having both for those different reasons. I'm also just such a huge fan of of a wide variety of music that if I'm doing something that's more rootsy and organic, I'm going to lean more towards the analog side of things in certain and even different types of microphones, like older, mics or older equipment or that sort of thing, than if I'm doing something that's a really clean, modern pop sort of thing. And the mixing process will be a similar thing, where the really clean, modern pop thing, there's going to be a couple of analog pieces of gear that I'll be using, but a lot of it is going to be very focused on the digital, equipment side of things. Mm-hmm. So it depends upon the source material, what I'm working on, what the vision is. But I very much see the value of both of them. And I would strongly argue with anyone that says that, the advent of technology or the opportunity or whatever, diminishes the artistic process or, takes away from it, or having the ability to be able to manipulate sound in a certain way has taken away from art as a general statement. I think that all of these tools are great. They just probably need to be used in the right capacity at the right times and with the right, frequency and, and that sort of thing. But I think it's all great. It's just more tools to put in your toolbox. You decide which ones you want to use based on what you're trying to build.
If people want to learn more about the studio and your work, where can they go? The website, things of that nature.
Yeah, the website is therecordshopnashville.com. We're on all the social media platforms at The Record Shop Studios. And the Studio Musician Academy would be a great place on YouTube and Instagram at the moment to check out and follow us and get involved in that part of the story. If anyone is trying to figure out their path within the entertainment industry and is having trouble finding someone that will give them honest, direct, clear advice and direction and not charge them their life savings for it, I will not charge you anything. You send me an email through our website, and if you listen to this show and you have a question that I could help you get to the next stage and whatever it is that you're trying to achieve within your career, I am here to help. I needed it when I was younger. When I was starting, regardless of age, I needed it when I was starting my career. It was very challenging for me to find it. I feel blessed to be in the position that I'm in now, to have a path that I feel like I found and I feel confident with. And I want to share my experiences and my knowledge to help people have great experiences in their life. So if anyone is looking for advice or direction, that's why I do these things here, is to share my story in the hope that it will be helpful. If you got a question, feel free to drop me a line. There's no hidden offer at the end of it. I'm just here to do what I can to be able to help other people have great experiences.
Really, really cool. Gina says, continued success to you. Nikki says, I'm applauding you, Sean, wishing you all the best in your journey. Joan saying, thanks, Sean, Jim, great show. A lot of comments coming in from our lovely viewers watching around the world. Sherry in Kansas, thank you, Sean, for being here, sharing your passion. Kathleen Walker in New York City, thank you for being here, Sean. Jen in Pennsylvania. Hey, Sean, thanks for spending time with us. I'm so humbled and thankful. Merlin in Canada says, that chair looks really comfortable that you're sitting in. It matches his hat. He's color coordinated. Sue says, Sean, your passion shows. Absolutely. And that's what we like, is passionate people. Terry Ann says, wow, Sean, incredible, beautiful studio. Wish you all the best with your future endeavors. God bless. Ann says, now that's a recording studio. Awesome. This is a beautiful thing Sean provides. From Nikki watching. A lot of cool stuff here. Merlin in Canada. Wow, good for you. Looks awesome. Maureen in Arizona. That space has everything an artist could dream of, having to make the perfect recording. Jane in Sweden. Wow, what a studio. Just some of the comments of the many coming in live from our viewership, our lovely squad here. You have certainly made your mark on this world, and there's so much more for you to do. Keep shining. For you, Sean, from Maureen. Jen says, Sean, come back soon. You're always welcome. And somebody else that sort of joins us all the time towards the latter part is Mr. George Burns. Always joins us at the end.
Oh, man.
There he is.
George Burns.
Oh, yeah. With his cigar and his tuxedo. He's got his little cigar there. And he said, you knocked it out of the park tonight, kid. He loved it.
Oh, man.
Isn't that cool?
You. That was my great-grandmother's favorite comedian.
George Burns. I said, there's somebody who made his mark and stuck with it, and started in vaudeville, and just continued the ups and downs, and to live to like 100. And my aunt collected dolls. So when he turned 100, she made sure she got the collectible George Burns doll, and it got passed down to me. So he pops in towards the end, the legend that he is.
Oh,
and
yeah.
He said, just keep doing your thing, Sean.
Well, thank you, George.
I was gonna say, and God, remember he played God in the movie too. You got God on your side, Sean. Not too shabby. Well, I hope this show met whatever expectations you had. Like I said, we do it warm, conversational. This isn't. I don't even call these interviews. I call these conversational, sort of Dick Cavett, Carson style, Regis style, but with a modern vibe, modern twisted today. You had no idea what the questions were. It's free flowing, conversational, viewer interaction, commenting, and pretty much how I do it in my professional work in TV and radio. And this is how I like to do it. And I hope the show, met whatever expectations you had, and you enjoyed the time with me as much as I definitely have with you, Sean.
Had a blast, man. I'd love to do it anytime.
We will keep that porch light on for you. And if you know some folks as well, we say to tell all the guests, spread the word. If you think any of them would like to pop on the show and get some of this JMS Lovity here from the Lovity Squad and all, that would be awesome. It takes a village, as you know, so spread the word. Jane says, you are talented, Sean. You've done so well. Thanks for being here. And thanks, Jim. Jane watching in Sweden. Merlin and Canada, you take care,
Jane.
Sean. Jim, Sean's got that chair too. So they're loving that chair you're in. Maybe you should sell some of those. You get the Sean chair. Hope you enjoyed the time in Lovity Hall with us, Sean, from Kathleen in New York City.
Oh, nice. Thanks.
Cool stuff. That's what it's all about here at the Jim Master Show, my friend. Continued success with everything, and keep us posted on all your endeavors and spread the word. We shall do the same. And thanks for spending all this time on the show. We chatted for about an hour 20, and it didn't even feel like it, did it?
Yeah, not at all. It was a great time, man.
We just let it roll. You be well, and thanks for all the time. Good luck with everything, and we'll be chatting again soon, I'm sure. Oh, Nikki, one more coming in here. Jim, you deserve kudos for bringing Sean into our hall, too. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Nikki, my father has always said, Sean, and I say it on this show often, whenever anybody says something nice and kind to you, ask them to please put it in writing and address it management.
Great.
That's it.
That's a great suggestion.
Whatever management is and whoever they are, just address it management and you're good to go. All right, my friend. Thanks for being with us, Sean. You're the best. And thanks for all the time. And we'll chat again soon. Okay.
Thanks for having me. Take care. Thanks everyone.
And thanks to your crew as well for getting everything all set up, the lighting, the sound, all of it. We appreciate, because it takes that gang behind the scenes helping you out too. That makes it all, come together. So thanks to them too.
Absolutely.
All right. You take care.
All right.
Bye-bye now. Sean Giovanni live here on the Jim Master Show live, founder and owner of the Record Shop Studios in Nashville. Pretty cool stuff. And you got a chance to actually see the studios in the studio that he's in. But then we had the opportunity to really see that cool video where he takes you on a tour of the entire facility, which again is his baby. And it's in a legendary, location. And it's something that he just really has mastered. And ever since he was a kid, it's like a dream to get into this world. And he, from the ground floor up, as he said, what was really cool about it, he didn't mention anything about a silver spoon. He didn't mention anything about, coming from a situation where everything was always in place and all he had to do was show up. He came from, the great foundation, the paper route and everything else, the great foundation of working hard and really working for what you want, not giving in and not giving up. And that's a real lesson, on our show, as much as we have entertainment and levity and all the cool stuff we have on this show, there's always a lot of inspiration built into it. Empowerment from the guests, from me, from all of the viewers, sort of collectively. And that's what's really cool about it. In this case, it's almost as much as it is touting this fantastic studio and all that it has to offer, it's also about somebody's journey to succeed in an incredibly difficult field. One that I can tell you, being in it myself from the broadcast side, TV, radio, and everything else, stage and film, is very demanding and very difficult. And, even I can write a book, and maybe I should, about all the things I've experienced, all the things I've had to do and the adjustments and all the time. And, even with this show that I added into my world, 650 episodes we've done in 2 years, live 7 days a week. And then I still work in the daytime. It's really, really cool. Jen says, I love y'all, Jim and Lovities. We love you back. Nice to see everybody here. All these great comments that have been filing in throughout the broadcast. Good night, John, Sean, Jim, and everyone. Jane in Sweden. Now, this is all those of you who are going to be watching this episode later when it's not live. This is the live audience right now. It's kind of like an episode of the Waltons. Everybody says good night and see you later and take care. And it's really cool. That's what we call levity here. Good night, Jane and sweet dreams. They all say it to each other. We say it. Merlin says, relax. That's really cool stuff. We love that as well. And Sherry and Nikki and Gina, good seeing you tonight. Stay safe all. And we appreciate that as well. Jane says Sean is our new lovely family member now. You got it. And in Jacksonville, good night, Jim and Sean. Thank you for a wonderful evening. Our pleasure. Always our pleasure, gang. Hey, if this is your first time here, we love having you here. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. That's the channel you're watching right now with over 650 episodes. Jim Masters TV is the YouTube channel where the Jim Masters Show live entertainment lifestyle talk show series is housed. And if you enjoyed this episode, give us a like. Yeah, that thumbs up icon you see next to all the episodes, a little thumbs up. Give us a like. It looks like this. Up Jim Masters Show, right? Give it the up sign, the thumbs up, and leave a comment on the YouTube channel as well. That helps us big time when you actually comment underneath the episodes that you enjoy. And when you subscribe to the YouTube channel, make sure, very important, you click the notification bell so you never miss any of the episodes and updates and all these cool guests and episodes and so much more coming up. Want to let you know that we have a bevy of phenomenal guests this week, rolling them all out. Tomorrow, Lacey Carpenter. Speaking of live from Nashville, Lacey Carpenter is here. Yes, she's returning to the show. She's a dear friend of our show. She has so much to tell us about a new single that is out. She's worked with an extraordinary, legendary performer. And also she's got a new book out too, a book that she's written in collaboration with others about the art of songwriting. Award-winning musician, singer, songwriter, violinist, fiddler, author, Lacey Carpenter, live from Nashville. She's, of course, originally from Texas. She's back with us for a return visit on the Jim Masters Show Live. She's going to play live. She's all excited, and she's going to be with us tomorrow, 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific, live, and we're really excited about it. Then on Wednesday, we've got a special afternoon show. Our broadcasts are usually 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific. But on Wednesday, at a special early afternoon time, join us in the afternoon, 3 p.m. Eastern, noon Pacific. We have award-winning journalist, author, and playwright Joel Sandberg going to be joining us. He wrote this incredible book about really the life and memory and melancholy life of Karen Carpenter, and so much more. His family has been in the comedy business, the writing business. He wrote another book called Almost Like Praying. He wrote a novel, Blowing in the Wind, on and on and on. But some kind of lonely clown, the incredible book about the life of Karen Carpenter. We're going to be talking about Karen. Joel is from Connecticut. That's where he lives with his family. Karen Carpenter and Richard Carpenter, originally from New Haven, Connecticut. We're going to talk about that. It's going to be terrific. That's in the afternoon on Wednesday at 3 p.m. Eastern, noon Pacific. Looking forward to that. Guess who's with us on Thursday? Yes, you guys are excited. My buddy Paul Green. We worked together when I emceed this big Christmas concert at Carnegie Hall, and he was one of the performers, and actor, musician, performer, guitarist. You know him as Dr. Carson Shepard on Hallmark Channels When Calls the Heart. He's my buddy. He's going to be back. He was here about a year or so ago on the show. So we figured, hey, it's time to hop back on. And he said, I want to come back on, Jim. So we found the date. He's on this Thursday live. Now, I'm not sure if he's going to be live from LA or live from Canada, where he's originally from, but he shoots a lot, Actually, they shoot a lot of episodes in Vancouver, but I think he'll be in LA. He's got a lot of new things, as you guys know, that have happened in his life. He's going to update us. Incredible musician and actor. Paul Green is on Thursday. It's going to be really cool. A lot of great things coming up here on the show. Guess who's going to be here on Friday? Nikita Burston and Anna Kosakis. They are starring in the new critically acclaimed hit, Off-Broadway's Romeo and Bernadette. That's right. This was already going, and then when the pandemic hit, they had to stop the entire production, the whole run of the production. And now they've come out of all of that. Theaters back open, and this phenomenal critically acclaimed hit, this off-Broadway hit, Romeo and Bernadette, in New York City, off-Broadway, is back on, and they're in previews in early May, and then they're full run starts in mid-May. Nikita was a guest on our show. You may remember he's an incredible performer. He was in Newsies on Broadway and so much more. Anna joining us as well. He plays Romeo. She plays Bernadette. So we have the stars of this off-Broadway production that is relaunching in just a couple weeks. They're going to be with us on Friday, which is really, really cool. Did you see the episode when actor and producer Justin Torkeldsen was with us? He played Rick Forrester on The Bold and the Beautiful, and he stars in Studio City with Sean Kanan. Actor Sean Kanan, you know, from Cobra Kai, from The Karate Kid, from General Hospital, from The Bold and the Beautiful, The Young and the Restless. Sean was on our show 3 times, including recently. And they're buddies. So Justin was with us for an epic conversation. You can see that in the archives. Did you see when Cousins Gibb, the incredible singer-songwriters, Cousins Gibb were here? Nick was here. We're going to have Deborah on at a later date with Nick, but Nick was here and really cool. Not only is he an incredible singer-songwriter, but he did an exhaustive search to find out who his biological father is. And it turned out his father is Morris Gibb of the Bee Gees, his biological father. Morris, of course, is no longer with us, but it's been an extraordinary story, and he's very open and authentic about it. Nick Endicott Gibb, the son of Morris Gibb from the Bee Gees, you know, Morris, Barry, and Robin, he was with us on the show as well, which was absolutely amazing. So check that out if you didn't see that episode. Did you see the episode when phenomenal Grammy-winning guitarist, composer, arranger from Paul McCartney's Wings? That's right. Lawrence Juber was a guest on the show. We had an awesome time with him. There he is in the photo with Paul and Linda McCartney. And he's a great guy. How about Marion Ross, Mrs. C from the Happy Days? She was a guest on our show. Stanley Livingston, who played Chip Douglas on My Three Sons, was on. And matter of fact, it's really cool because I think it was last week, it marked 50 years since My Three Sons went off the air on CBS. 50 years. That's crazy. There was an episode we did with Stanley and a separate episode we did with his brother Barry. Barry played Ernie Douglas. Remember the kid with the glasses? Judy Norton from the Waltons, she played Mary Ellen Walton. She was on our show as well. Scott Dreyer was here celebrating Doris Day. He's part of the Doris Day Project. I think they celebrated 100 years of Doris Day recently. He also does voiceovers for Sonic the Hedgehog. He's a voice artist, actor, singer extraordinaire. Did you see when Henry Lamar was on the show? Celebrity illustrator, graphic designer from Los Angeles. Look at those illustrations. Look at Carol Burnett and Lucille Ball, Judy Garland, the Golden Girls in those incredible illustrations. He's really, really absolutely amazing. So this is just some of the folks who've been on out of 650 episodes and some that are coming on. Lacey is tomorrow night. We're going to have a great time with Lacey. It's going to be epic. So look for that. And then again, after Lacey, then Joel Sandberg's going to be here talking about Karen Carpenter and so much more. It's going to be incredible. Paul Green, and then the stars of Off-Broadway's Romeo and Bernadette, and then many, many more. We're excited. We're really excited to, there's a couple people I want to tell you about that are coming on the show. Well, maybe I should. Patty Davis is coming on the show. Ronald Reagan's daughter. She's coming on the show. Lucy Arnaz is coming on the show as well. Michael Leonard, who starred as the mother on The Waltons, is coming on the show. And that's just the short list, gang. So we're very excited about all that. And we thank you for tuning in and all these great comments coming in here, left and right. We'll take a look at a couple more, and then we will say sayonara. We don't say goodbye here. We just say cheers and ciao, because we'll be back again tomorrow. But let's take a look at some of the few more comments coming in, and then we will wrap up the situation here. Look at all these comments that have come in here. This is really cool stuff. Thanks again for all the comments, all the levity. Continue to spread the word. Share the links on all your social media. That's really important as well. Maureen says, Jim, I'm so happy that you took the time to be with your family over the weekend. Yeah, Easter weekend. And welcome back. You were missed. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Hope your holiday weekend was terrific as well, Maureen. In Arizona, Sue is here. Jim, if you ever do write a book, I'll buy a copy. You know, I should write the book about when I drove alone through Death Valley. That whole life-changing story that happened in that rental car. That's the one that everybody keeps telling me to write. I've shared elements of it here on this series. Thank you, Sherry, and everybody else for all these great comments coming in here. We really appreciate this. Kathleen says, thanks, Jim. Great show. Kathleen in New York City. Hope you had a great holiday weekend as well. Thanks for being here as well. Nikki goes, yes, one wonders, is there a book being planned? Actually, there is. Stu says, Sue says to Stu, stay safe, everybody. I tell you, speaking of producers, one of my great friends is the legendary Stu Phillips. You know that, Stu Phillips, the Holly Ridge Strings, and so much more. Looking forward to all upcoming shows and awesome guests. Have a good night, Kathleen, as well. Good stuff. And thanks, gang. We're going to get ready to wrap up here. Mary says good night. And you guys are just great. All these comments. Thanks, gang, for everything here. Maureen says so many amazing guests have graced Levity Hall. Yes, they certainly have. And many more to come, many more inspiring and empowering conversations and levity. Amazing guests are attracted to this amazing show, an amazing host. How do we print? Can we print that one out? I'm still trying to find out how we can print these out and I can put them on highway billboards. Thanks, Kathleen. I appreciate that. Jen Barry, Pennsylvania, who's always zen in the mountains of Allentown, Pennsylvania. Jim, thank you to yourself for the time you put into the Jim Masters Show. I love and appreciate you yourself. Love you. Thank you very much. I appreciate that as well. Awesome. Dana says, great interview. Dana, thank you very much. I appreciate that as well. It was awesome. Lisa says, hope your Easter was amazing. Jim and all. We'll catch this later. Thank you, Lisa. Sherry Larson saying good night, everyone. Have a wonderful Tuesday. Thank you, Jim, for all you do. You're amazing. God, I want to print that one out too. How do we do that? Thanks, Sherry, and everybody watching the Jim Masters Show live. It's a unique community that we've created here. Very special. We don't call it an interview show. We call it conversations, bringing back the lost art of conversation. All right, Jim Masters here. Thanking you for your time this time. Till next time, back tomorrow with Lacey Carpenter live from Nashville. It's going to be amazing. So much to tell us about. Great music, new book, 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific. She's great. She's a return guest. You guys love her. We love her too. She's all excited. I'm all excited. We're like two little kids in a candy shop. So we're excited that she's coming back. She's a good friend of mine, and she'll be back tomorrow. And again, we don't say goodbye. We say see you later, sláinte, cheers, ciao, shalom, avida zain, sayonara, take care, and all the rest. All right, gang, we'll see you again. All right, I'll be here waiting for you on the next one tomorrow. And again, if you are not watching this live, you're watching it Memorex, you're watching it in the archives, stay right here. Another episode of the Jim Masters Show live comes right up. Till then, for all of us, be well, take care of one another, love one another. We'll see you on the next episode of the Jim Masters Show live. Cheers.